Says I'm live, and it is Friday. Now, let's get back to business. Hey, folks, I'm coming to you with another pain points message for the Powersports Academy. I'll bring this up closer and maybe get a little more face-to-face with you guys. This one's a tough one. This one's a hard message to say and not sound, like a jerk, but I'm really just trying to be inquisitive. I talk to vendors in my space. I talk to folks that help with lead management. I talk to people that help with processes and systems that deal with service departments making estimates and quotes, consistently, right? Not like this guy gets a price for fork seals and this guy gets a price for fork seals and this guy gets a price for fork seals. And all three of those guys got different prices for fork seals. So, there are processes that can make the experience for the customer much more consistent. So I speak to people that work in these fields, other trainers in other industries, marine, automotive, RV, even mountain bikes, bicycles, things like that. And a conversation that comes up a lot, and just be blunt, right? Because maybe there's a disconnect between the two audiences, but honestly, we just find a lot of dealership owners really just don't want to make the investment in the training or the process training or business development, the growth that it would take to even grab that low-hanging fruit and come up with more revenue, whether it be sales, F&I, fixed operations, inventory control, any of these things. So I put it to the dealers. I say, hey, give me your feedback. Let me know what it is. For instance, at the beginning of October, I put out a thing called Outrageous October. So for Outrageous October, I was like, hey, here's the deal. I'm going to give your staff access to all of our online content. I'm going to give your staff access to our monthly coaching calls. This is not a 2-day rah-rah workshop where you have to put your people on an airplane and hotel and rental car and restaurant and per diem and all of that, and people out of the shop for 3-4 days for a travel weekend. None of that. It's the curriculum's online. And so, we've got a full curriculum in fixed operations online. They get access to all of the content. They also get access to the coaching calls. So the coaching calls, imagine the hit you get from a 2-day workshop, right? You send your folks, airplane, hotel, rental car, restaurants, per diem, and you do the 2-day workshop and your people come back fired up. They might be tired, but they come back fired up, and you might see a revenue jump for 2, 3, 4 days. I'm lying. It should be 2, 3, 4 weeks if the course is good, right? But then there's that backslide. There's that thing that happens where they just start to even out, right? Almost like it's like this process of osmosis, right? But it's just like everything just kind of evens out, and they find a plateau, and they kind of rest on that plateau for a little bit and even backslide some. And as the owner, you're looking at that and you're going, man, why doesn't it stick? Why doesn't this stick? And then I come along with the Powersport Academy and I say, look, no more airfare, hotel, rental car, per diem, restaurant, none of that. Let's just put the content online and let's meet with your staff on a monthly basis, virtually, like we're doing here, right? And coach them, give them homework, review the homework, help them with goal processing month after month after month. And then let's track that growth over the course of a year and see what really happens inside your business. And so I look at this and I go, okay, Outrageous October. Let's just cut the price by 75% and give cats the ability to jump in for just 25% of the normal cost and get in and do some training and invest in their people. Now, on one hand, an optimistic marketer would say, hey, I'd have to beat them off with a stick. A realist would say, well, maybe you'll get a few people on this one, and then a pessimist would be like, man, these dealers, they never want to invest in their people anyway. You could give it away for free and they still wouldn't sign up. Well, newsflash, I tried free at the beginning of the project and people didn't sign up. And the feedback was it needs to be more expensive. It needs it, even if you sold it for $2,000 a year, it would need to be more expensive. My owner would never pay for a course that was this cheap because they would think there was no value in it because it's too cheap. So we improved the program. We added to the courses. We added the coaching. We added the homework. We added resources that people can download and use inside their businesses. We added all of these features over the last 4 years and still looking at it and going, why are we not yet beating people off with a stick for this? As I talk to other vendors in the industry, they'll say, oh, well, dealers, they just don't want to invest, or dealers don't want to pay to train their people because they're afraid once they train them, their people will leave and go somewhere else. But the other side of that is you don't train them and they stay forever and your business still sucks. So you have to wonder, if you're me, what's the magic sauce? What's the magic combination of content, service, price, investment, fee, whatever, and then people saying, yeah, I want to grow my business and I want to invest in it and I want to be successful in what I do. A mortgage broker is constantly developing themselves with continuing education. A dentist is continuing to improve themselves with ongoing education. And as things morph and change and we go through things like COVID and post-COVID and all of these, and technology and these things that move forward, you would think as a business owner, you would want to grab the opportunity for continuing development. I look at some of the really, really smart people in the industry that I associate with and the conversations we have. And quite honestly, we can talk all day long and we can have hypothesis, we can have theory. But until real dealers, the people that write the checks, give us valuable feedback like, hey, I looked at your program and I didn't sign up because I thought it sucked. Hey, I looked at your program. I thought it was too much money. Hey, I didn't look at your program because truthfully, I can't afford to train my people. I can barely pay my house payment. It's that kind of feedback that's going to help us make better decisions moving forward and figure out how we're going to address the needs of the industry and inspire people to be the best that they can be. I'll say this for you. I've got a couple of decades of dealership experience and I've got a decade of OEM experience. And the attitude of the OEM is not a negative thing. I don't want to portray it in a way that's like us against them, them against us, that kind of thing. But if you own a dealership and you're waiting for the OEMs to come back with service writer training, service manager training, inventory control training, how to use an open to buy program for your parts and inventory, how to be efficient with your use of Lightspeed or DX1 or one of those features, how to read a P&L spreadsheet and make business decisions on inventory based on that P&L spreadsheet. If you're waiting for the OEM to supply that kind of training and that kind of knowledge, you're going to be waiting a long, long, long time. And truth be known, the OEM's job is to sell as many units as possible. They're distributorships. Very few of them that you interact with are actual manufacturers. They're distributors. So their goal is to sell you as much stuff as possible to put on your floor plan for you to finance and then figure out a way to sell to the public. So is their goal really to help you make smarter inventory decisions based on your P&L and your flow and your turn? Or is their goal to sell you as many units from their brand as possible so that they make more sales? I get lost on this one. And this is where I need your help. And this is where I'm asking for help. If you're a vendor in the field, if you're another trainer in fixed ops, a trainer in sales, a trainer in F&I, and you've got opinions or some kind of magic sauce that you got from talking to dealers face to face, I'd love to share some time with you. Let's jump on the horn. Let's problem solve this thing and figure out how we're going to train these people. I visit dealerships. I walk in. You can hear it when they answer the phone. You can hear it when they greet people. If they greet people that walk in the showroom, you can hear it when they try to close somebody that hasn't been on a test ride yet or has actually, sampled the product. There's work to do. There's a lot of work to do. And we can do the work. We have the systems. We have the curriculum. We have the ability. We have people that are really passionate in the space. So, how do we get those people that are really passionate in that part of the space connected to the people that really need it? And how do we do it in a loving, open way that doesn't seem condescending? Like, I want to be business partners with people that are out there making it happen, face to face with the customer. So, how do we make that happen? Pop in here, give me some feedback. I say, hey, this is a pain point talk, and this one's dependency. The dependency is if we're dependent upon our suppliers, if we're dependent upon the OEMs, if we're dependent upon, these large accessory distributorships to somehow finance our business, to give us inventory, to kind of find a way to get features and benefits type training to sell more product. If that's what we're dependent upon as dealerships to grow, expand, and float this business through our communities, that's a pain point. That is a pain point. Dealers are much stronger than some of them portray themselves to be to themselves. There's a lot of strength in being a dealership. The OEM is not in charge. You can work with the OEM without having to work for the OEM. And we can work together to try and figure out how we're going to offer the best of services, the best of products, and the best experience to the customer. And if we do that as an industry on a wholesale basis, we can help rejuvenate the industry, which really had what do you call that, second, third, fourth breath through the COVID crisis. But that's over. And restaurants are open now, and museums are open now, and movie houses are open now, and parks are open now. And so there's a lot of other options for families to go out and enjoy themselves that don't involve a UTV or a dirt bike. So we have to ask ourselves, how are we going to adapt to this post-COVID world? How are we going to focus on growth? And how are we going to offer a consistent experience to the customer? And I personally believe sources like the Powersport Academy and some of the other power partners I have in the industry are the answer to some of that. So if you would, give me a shout. I'm looking over here at comments. Let's see. We've got a couple that rolled in. He says, George is in here, and he says, as the previous director of training and store performance for Cycle Gear over 20 years, as we know, leadership is, let's put that up here. So let's put him up. This is George. George, welcome to the call, by the way, man. I'm super awesome that you joined here. And he says here, as we know, leadership is lacking on the moto power sports industry, and this is the foundation. Couldn't agree with you more, George. In fact, I didn't want to go so much into, the process of training with the Powersport Academy. But a lot of folks that look at joining the Powersport Academy from a dealership perspective, sometimes they go, well, what's the script for this? Or give me the easy button for this. Give me the checklist for a service writer. And they want these tools, and they almost want to skip the training. The training that we give starts out with communication and leadership. And so to your point, yeah, leadership is lacking, greatly lacking in the motorcycle industry. And people have a misconception over what leadership is, right? If we think of it as, how do we add the most value to the most amount of people? That's different than, how do I steer this ship? And the more that we teach on communication and leadership, the more we can restore the internal culture of these dealerships. And once the internal culture is strong, that's when we begin to inject and infuse that dealership with processes that match for efficiency, productivity, and profit without alienating the customer. So yeah, I think you nailed it right there, man. I agree with you on that perspective. And then you followed up and said, building, training, and developing team members from there is vital. Absolutely. So, how do we do that? How do we get dealership owners, the people that write the checks, the people that would be, responsible for the training in this area, to recognize the responsibility for training? Again, when I go to pain point dependency, I can't help but think that the dealer is waiting for the OEM to come out with something that's going to be some magic bullet that makes business easier to run or more effective or efficient for the customer. And unfortunately, the longer we wait, the longer we think the OEM's going to come through like that, the more we realize they're not. And so that's why you have, not for nothing, Garage Composites, awesome. The stuff that Derek Sanders does, awesome. The stuff you see Joe Iribarren doing in the field, great stuff. Max is out there right now. Max Matern was, can't remember it. I want to say it was OCD, but it's not OCD. It's something with his training program is out there. Cycle Gear, you mentioned Cycle Gear. I know that Cycle Gear, from what I've heard from people that used to work there, had some leadership and management training that was pretty effective, if I remember that. And of course, trust and value. Yeah. Trust and value, like products, needs to be visible. That's a weird one. I make this joke all the time. When I worked in Denver in the automotive field, there was a customer that came in and the name of their business was Integrity Electrical. And I remember every time I would see their truck pull in, I was like, I would never hire somebody that said, oh, the name of my company is Integrity, whatever. Because I think to myself, if you got to tell me you have integrity, if you have to write integrity on the truck, that kind of tells me you probably don't have it. Right. And so it was one of those things. It's like, how do you explain to a dealer that, yeah, leadership, trust, integrity, value, those things are at the forefront of doing business with the public. But how do you display that to the public without writing it on the front of your building? And the obvious answer is through action, but you have to coach people how to take that kind of action and see the kind of results that they want. Oh, look at that. There he goes. I did give you the shout out. I didn't know it was yours, man. It says Cycle Gear University. That was my program. Thanks for the shout out. Yeah. I've talked to a lot of folks that worked at Cycle Gear. We had people at Suzuki. When I worked at Suzuki, there were people in the office there that had worked for Cycle Gear before working for Suzuki. And they had some positive things to say, and if you think about, the corporate space, the corporate world, it's like, if someone leaves somewhere and then takes positivity away from that experience and shares that with others, that means that it was probably, something that was out of this world, right? Because not a lot of people talk about how wonderful their past employers were. I, for one, I spent some time with Ducati, and I was a contractor for Ducati, and then I worked internally at Ducati. And I got to tell you, I loved going to Italy. I loved Ducati Motor Holdings. I still have friends and relationships that work in the factory there. I took my wife on vacation after I stopped working for Ducati. I took my wife on vacation in Italy, went to the factory, and went out to dinner with people from the factory. The culture and the love, the admiration, the family that come from that particular brand at the manufacturing level was absolutely amazing and astounding to this day. Yeah, I didn't want to say Neil by name, but yeah, it was Neil Walbaum, right? And Neil was awesome. He was one of my mountain bike buddies. Used to go mountain biking with him all the time when I lived out there. Of course, now I'm in Kansas. We've been in Kansas for a month. Today makes a month. So I'm celebrating my first month anniversary in Kansas, but really good times. Conversely, I'll tell you, I thought working for Suzuki would be cool and going to Japan, but I just didn't get that same love, that same vibe, that same energy that I got with the Italians. Really, really enjoyed working for Ducati. I know Ducati's got a couple of open positions at the field service rep area, field service rep level. They call them SAM, service area manager. They got a couple of positions, I think, open still. I saw Alex had posted something about that last week on LinkedIn, and I even shared the post. I was like, if you have the opportunity to jump into a position at that level and you've never worked for an OEM at that level, Ducati is a great exposure for that. I really enjoyed my time with them. Well, folks, that kind of wraps up my power pain points talk. This is all super important stuff. I've been bringing up these pain points as part of my Outrageous October. Dealerships, there's such an opportunity. There's so much low hanging fruit. People just don't understand what happens with the coaching. It's like watching an episode of Hoarders. The human being can become incredibly adaptable based on environment. And so sometimes when we work at a dealership, we don't realize, what does the public see? What does the public see when they drive up to the building? What does the public see when they park here? What does the public see when they try to figure out if they're going to parts, service, or sales? What does the public see when they walk in the front door? What's the customer journey feel like? And a lot of dealers lose focus on that over time, which is a natural thing. But someone like me goes out and visits dealers and see this thing firsthand. I can go to a dealership. I came up to one dealer and said, I just watched your technician spend, this much time looking for a battery. I was at another dealership and I was like, I just watched customers walk around your store for 45 minutes and no one say hi to them. And as an owner, you should be mortified to get that feedback, but you should also be anxious to fix that, to repair that, and think about how you can make that better. And a lot of times, the owners of the dealerships might have that knowledge. They might have that knowledge and they might make the assumption that their staff is executing on knowledge like that. But the truth of the matter is that they're not. And so you have to figure out, as a dealer owner, is that something you can take ownership of and train your people, work with your people, mentor your people, and get your people to the level that you think that they're at or should be at? Or do you bring in, a service provider like Powersport Academy, like Dealer Lead Pro, like a Derek Sanders, like Garage Composites, do you bring these entities in to band-aid and fix what you've got and train your people and get them where they need to be? These are simple questions. Unfortunately, the answers aren't as simple. So again, I'm reaching out to dealers. This one is very much asking for feedback. I would love, love, love to have some feedback from dealers, from dealer owners that are like, this is the magic sauce. This is what we need. This is what we can do. This is what we'd pay for that. People want what we offer, but of course people don't want to pay for what we offer. So just come to the table open hand and say, this is what I would do for my dealership and this is the value I would put on that. There's dealerships I've coached in the last year that have seen an extra $600,000 to $800,000 in growth opportunity just in revenue through their service departments. And so you go, well, if you're going to bring an extra $800,000 in revenue to a building, what is that training worth? Most training's based on a 10x example. So that would be $80,000. I'll tell you this right now. I haven't charged anybody $80,000 for training. So figure out, kind of sit and listen to this video, maybe replay it once or twice if you're a dealer owner and go, wow, you know what? If I really could design a program of my choice and have someone deliver that program and mentor my people and monitor their growth, what would that be worth? And I'd really like to hear that answer. And boom, George, thank you for your kind words, man. He says, you're doing great work, Kurt. The industry needs your great knowledge. Very flattering. Thank you for the kind words, George. It's great to see you, man. Have an awesome weekend. This one will close out our live for today. But I've been doing these pain point videos all month because I really want to drive home what we're trying to do with Outrageous October. With Outrageous October, our goal is to make our presence here in Kansas more permanent. It's like a building fund, having a shop area that we can do permanently, where we can make more content, where we can do more quality stuff, and then possibly bring in some workshops. We've got access to some property just over the border in Missouri. Maybe we'll do some, digital detox leadership type stuff, on property, away from town. And I think that'd be a really cool way to build some people up and to put some projects together. But of course, we need participants. And so I can't make these great plans without participants. And that's part of why I launched Outrageous October. So if you are a dealer and you want a smoking hot deal on the training as we have offered it, jump into the Outrageous October offer that's on the powersportacademy.com site. And if you are a dealer and you're like, that deal ain't for me, let me know what deal is for you. Get in touch with me. I'd really be interested in seeing what some dealer owners have in mind for what would be effective, affordable, and would get them the goals that they're looking for. Have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye-bye.